Hey, this is Rick, and I'm waiting for actually a Zoom call. And this is like the third time that people have changed it. Maybe it's just not meant to be. And then they haven't sent the link yet. I sent them a link yesterday. It's for a big project. Let's see how that works out. It's a hotel thing. I guess I'm okay to speak about that. These people book like a 7 nights and up at a hotel. The company does that and give you a great discount for finding that kind of booking for you, for the hotel, I guess. I'm not sure if it's B2B or B2C. I don't know if you know what I mean, but anyway, I came here to talk about Neville while I'm waiting. I had planned to do it earlier, and I realized my clock is behind. Everything's kind of funky. My clock right now says 9 p.m., but I know it's about 9:30, maybe 9:20. I'm going to adjust that later. This other clock says 9:17. Well, that's pretty close to 9:20. Let's start with some Neville. I have here. Oh, did I do that right? Okay, I have here chapter 2, sealed instructions from the great Neville Goddard. Let's read. You want to read with me? Okay, you start. The first power that meets us at the threshold of the soul's domain is the power of imagination. I was first made conscious of the power, nature, and redemptive function of imagination through the teachings of my friend Abdullah. And through subsequent experiences, I learned that Jesus was a symbol of the coming of imagination to man. That the test of his birth in man was the individual's ability to forgive sin. That is, his ability to identify himself or another with his aim in life. Without the identification of man with his aim, the forgiveness of sin is an impossibility. And only the Son of God can forgive sin. Therefore, man's ability to identify himself with his aim, though reasons and his senses deny it, is proof of the birth of Christ in him. To passively surrender to appearances and bow before the evidence of facts is to confess that Christ is not yet born in you. To passively surrender to appearances and bow before the evidence of facts is to confess that Christ is not yet born in you. Although this teaching shocked and repelled me at first, for I was a convinced and earnest Christian, and did not then know that Christianity could not be inherited by the mere accident of birth, but must be consciously adopted as a way of life. It stole later on through visions, mystical revelations, and practical experiences into my understanding. Very nice wording. It stole into my understanding. I love that. And found its interpretation in a deeper mood. But I must confess that it is a trying time when those things are shaken, which one has always taken for granted. Seest thou these great buildings? There shall not be left one stone upon another that shall not be thrown down. Not one stone of literal understanding will be left after one drinks the water of psychological meaning. All that has been built up by natural religion is cast into the flames of mental fire. Yet, what better way is there to understand Christ Jesus than to identify the central character of the Gospels with human imagination? Knowing that every time you exercise your imagination lovingly on behalf of another, you are literally mediating God to man, and thereby feeding and clothing Christ Jesus. And that, whenever you imagine evil against another, you are literally beating and crucifying Christ Jesus. Every imagination of man is either the cup of cold water or the sponge of vinegar to the parched lips of Christ. Let none of you imagine evil in your hearts against his neighbor, warned the prophet Zechariah. When man heeds this advice, he will awake from the imposed sleep of Adam into the full consciousness of the Son of God. He is in the world, and the world is made by him, and the world knows him not. Human imagination. I asked myself many times, if my imagination is Christ Jesus, and all things are possible to Christ Jesus, are all things possible to me? Through experience, I have come to know that when I identify myself with the aim in life, then Christ is awake in me. Christ is sufficient for all things, for in him dwelleth all the fullness of the Godhead bodily, and ye are complete in him, which is the head of all principality and power. My grace is sufficient for thee. I lay down my life that I might take it again. No man taketh it from me, but I lay it down of myself. What a comfort it is to know that all that I experience is the result of my own standard of beliefs. That I am the center of my own web of circumstances, and that as I change, so must my outer world. The world presents different appearances according as our states of consciousness differ. What we see when we are identified with a state cannot be seen when we are no longer fused with it. By state is meant all that man believes and consents to is true. No idea presented to the mind can realize itself unless the mind accepts it. It depends on the acceptance, the state with which we are identified, how things present themselves. Depends on the acceptance, the state with which we are identified, how things present themselves. In the fusion of imagination and states is to be found the shaping of the world as it seems. The world is a revelation of the states with which imagination is fused. It is the state from which we think that determines the objective world in which we live. It is the state from which we think that determines the objective world in which we live. The rich man, the poor man, the good man, the thief, are what they are by virtue of the states from which they view the world. On the distinction between these states depends the distinction between the worlds of these men. Individually so different is this same world. It is not the actions and behavior of the good man that should be matched, but his point of view. Outer reforms are useless if the inner state is not changed. Success is gained not by imitating the outer actions of the successful, but by right inner actions and inner talking. Oh, I do like that. I do like that quote.